During the First World War, the life of women changes. Many think that the First World War had a wholly positive impact on women's role, opening up new opportunities for them, strengthening their case for the right to vote, allowed them the entry in the world of work. But the reality is more complex, because these opportunities were not long-lasting and also entirely positive. While their men are fighting on the war fields, more than 1 million women took the chance to join the workforces between 1914 and 1918. They worked across the economy as tram drivers, train cleaners, banks workers, factory workers, police patrols, postal workers, nurses. Women began to taste independence and were also able to prove that they could do men's work. A lot of women began to work in factories. They produced munition, made shells, bullets, they heaved coke and coal, manufactured artillery shells, and handled dangerous explosives. But they work in very poor condition. The dangerous chemicals they used caused health problems. For example, TNT, which caused workers' skin yellow, and also called for this reason the Canaries. Although figures were suppressed to keep moral height, accidents were common. An explosion and TNT plant in Silvertown, Islando, cost 73 people their lives. Women became to work as policewomen, and they were named women's patrols. They had various responsibilities. For example, they had to maintain discipline and monitor women's behavior around factories, to carry out inspection of women to ensure that they did not take anything into the factories which might cause explosion. They had to patrol other public areas such as railway stations, streets, parks, and public houses. Women were employed also in the transport industry as bus conductresses, ticket collectors, porters, carriage cleaners, and bus drivers. During the war, the number of women working on the railways rose from 9,000 to 50,000. Women worked also as post officers. They delivered 12 million letters a week crossing the channel.
The war transformed the nursing profession. The necessity to treat large numbers of wounded soldiers at the front created not only white dangers but a real working-class women's work, distanced from the original ancillary service. The most important organization for medical assistance was the Red Cross, that recruited 10,000 volunteers. Nurses received a basic paramedical training. In service, nurses carried out several functions outside the usual realm of nursing. They treated patients near the front line at field hospitals, evacuation stations, or clearinghouses. They also served in troop transport and transport ships. Some of them even drove ambulances. Their presence served not only as a strong medical force, but also as a source of emotional care for soldiers.
From 1914, the convention that on marriage women should leave their work as teachers was abandoned because of the loss of male teachers. So many women were employed as teachers and their role in the school became very crucial. Teachers did not just teach to write and read, but they helped to build the national conscience and the patriotism among the population. Also, school programs were focused on war, patriotism and heroism. Especially in the small towns, teachers care also about social questions such as the lecture of correspondence.
During the First World War, women wanted to join up. Women's Army Auxiliary Corps was established in December 1916. The Women Royal Naval Service was formed in November 1917, and in the end, Women's Royal Air Force was set up on the 1st April 1918. Though all these new opportunities for women, there is still a gender gap in the wages. There is as little as half the wages of the men doing similar jobs. Also, the working hours is hard. Some women worked 13 days without a break. What's up after the war? For some, life after war offered new opportunities. The Sex Disqualification Act of 1919 made it illegal to exclude the women from jobs because of their gender. The Representation of the People Act of 1918 enfranchised 8.5 million women, giving them a voice in Britain's government for the first time. But there was an economic downside. The Restoration of Pre-War Practice Act of 1919 forced most women to leave their wartime roles as men came home.
There are great women in the First World War. Marie Curie was the woman who carried for the first time the equipment for the radiography in the Hospital of the Fields to save many lives and to operate on the blow. Edith Wharton wrote her works from the French front in order to report the devastation of the war through limpid life gashes. An example is the work The Age of Innocence. Edith participated in the war and helped the fugitives of the conflict, and so created the first dwellings. Rosa Luxemburg was a revolutionary, theoretical of the Polish socialism and member of the German Social Democratic Party. Rosa was dedicated to her manifestations against the war, and so she was imprisoned and killed for her insurrections. She wanted to defend the human rights and to remove the dictatorship.
The theme of rape during the First World War has long been censored. Thousands of women were raped by Italian soldiers and enemies. According to the testimonies gathered, there were first of all the German and Hungarian soldiers, followed by Bosnians and Croats that were responsible for the carnal violence, even leaving themselves to murder and torture. Rape often took place in front of children and relatives. Most of the violence was recorded in the first phase of invasion. A commission of inquiry was set up in which the sexual violence against women was enlightened. The women most affected were refugees and those who lived in the countryside. There were 7,035 complaints to the commission, a small number compared to the reality. The women killed after rape were officially 53. Another 40 died in the following days or months because of the beating received, others dying flogging themselves from the windows. We know, as it still happens today, that only a small part of rapes has been reported. From the rape of a group of 118 women, which took place near Oderzo, 40 births were reported. And this, to give an example, it was impossible to determine how many women in the group aborted or killed newborns. In a country that considered abortion to be the worst of crimes, it spoke not of love but of duty of abortion. The problem was not to make women decide, but to safeguard the honor of the husbands. Many women tried to oppose it, but at the end won silence, shame, and guilt.